I am Soraya, and this is a tutorial on how to use GitHub, specifically how to push and pull commits to GitHub. Okay, so the first things first is that you want to log into GitHub. I'm going to click sign in because I already have a GitHub. I'm also already signed in, so I'm not going to actually click it, but if you need to create an account, this is where you would create the account at. Okay, so getting started. Here's what the beginning page looks like. So GitHub is all about essentially using GitHub as the place to put your code so that other people can take that code and salvage what they want to salvage, splice the code apart and pick out something that they find they can build on, and just using that code as a base to build another project for themselves. It's a completely free website, and it is great for developers looking for code, like I said, and it's relatively simple to use. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is start my timer to make sure that I'm on time. Yeah, so now let's talk about this beginning page here. So this is the beginning page of GitHub when you create your account. As you can see, my account doesn't have a lot on it. It is from a different class that I used it for one semester, so it's not a bunch on it, but it does have a couple of repositories here. And these 4 repositories right here come from a different class. This mini blog is from where I worked on a blog style page with a partner from a different class, and this is from my teacher, just teaching us a little bit of Python coding. This particular repository will be something that we're working on today, and I'll get into more detail about that particular one a little bit later on. Okay, so when you're using your repository, the first thing that you want to do is search. So let me click on that again. This is the search bar right here. I'm going to search for mini blog, but if you were looking for something different, it can be anything like games or like just how to start building a game or whatever you're looking for. But I'm going to search for mini blogs. Okay. So I particularly liked a specific blog that I saw. It's called Henry Themes Jekyll Minimal Theme. So this one I already have pulled up. I can kind of tell that it was a good one based off of just how it looked, but as you can see, there are many different types of repositories in here. So let's see, this one, Jekyll theme for building a personal site blog, a minimal blog engineer using Razor web page, an open source blog system that developed with Flask. And you can also go in and narrow it down by the type of language that you want to use. Okay, so we're going to use this one right here, which I already have opened, but I'll open it up again so you guys can see it. So as you can see, this is just what the inside of a repository looks like, or the opening repository, whatever you want to call it. This is the page for a repository. Okay, as you can see, this person has layouts, posts, CSS, license, readme, and all of this should show up in whatever coding app that you're already using. I will be using Visual Studios today. I won't be going into depth, but just to show you a little bit of push and pull and how those changes are committed, that would be the coding app that I'm using. Now, I want to talk about what a master and a branch is. So a master branch is the main branch that you use to push or pull any code from. Okay, these branches are important, especially when you are working with another person, because this is how you make sure that you guys are on the same page and you're getting the most updated version of your code at all times. In GitHub, there's no way to code at the same time with somebody, so you really want to focus on, for example, if I'm coding with somebody, let's call him Tom. Okay, if I'm coding with Tom, Tom wants to make all his codes and his changes that he sees fit, and then he's going to pull it up to GitHub so that I can so that I can, I'm sorry, he's going to push it up to GitHub so that I can pull it down and now make my changes. But Tom and I are not going to code at the same time, because if we both pull it, it may erase, I'm sorry, I keep saying pull, but if we both push the code up, it will erase some commits or overlook a few commits or not give us the most updated version, or just a lot of issues can happen. So always remember to code one at a time. But that's essentially what a master branch is. And just to explain a little bit more, each personal computer will have a different branch. And so my personal computer will have a branch that I believe it's Siri 98, that when I push or pull my code, it will show from that branch. But when I'm committing it, it's up under the master branch. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm not changing that. Now, the next thing I want to look at is forking. Forking a code is essentially, let's sign in one more time. I don't know why it's asking us to sign in again, but here we go. Forking a code is essentially just downloading the code, or copying the code onto your GitHub desktop, okay? So when you click it, it's going to show you which one. I already forked my code previously from trying to film this video, so that's why it's already showing up. But if you're clicking along with me, you should be able to choose where you want to fork your code to. Okay, so I'm not going to click it again. And if you click download code, it also says open with GitHub desktop, which I'm going to go ahead and open through because I don't have GitHub up right now. And since the code is already forked, I don't need to refork it. But if you haven't already downloaded the code, again, you're just going to fork the code to your terminal. Okay, so I'm going to open it with the GitHub desktop. Okay, and then before we go into a little bit more detail, I want to go back to the code so we can kind of talk about what exactly is going on here. As you can see, there's layout, post, CSS, everything like that. And like I said, it does show up in whatever code that you're coding in, whatever coder you're coding in. But I want to particularly focus on the README. So the README is just kind of the introduction to the repository. You want to ideally get repositories that have readmes so that you can see what it's about. But if it doesn't, that's not necessarily the end of the world, especially considering that sometimes you're just salvaging code, so you don't necessarily need working code. Okay, so that's just kind of how I look to see if this code that I'm using is usable, if I see a pretty decent like archive here, and if the README tells me enough information for me to be comfortable. And I also look for license. That's just a little tidbit that one of my professors taught me, is just to look for licenses, because you always want to license your code. So if you're forking some code and you've now got it on your personal terminal, which is just, so for example, if we go back to the Siri 98, this is my personal terminal. So I'm not coding in Henry themes. I'm not coding in where this person has already uploaded their full project. Okay, so that's just kind of the difference between it. I want to go back just to show you one more time so that you're really seeing what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go to my profile. And the Siri 98 is the same repository that we were looking at the beginning. So where is it? Right here. It's this repository right here, as you can see. Okay, so going back to GitHub now. This, once we fork the code and we pull it down to GitHub desktop, it will show in the desktop like this. So this is just the plain desktop. I have it in black. I believe you can change the color to white, but I prefer my color scheme to be black. And as you can see, it shows my current repository. So I can also click through other repositories that I have in my desktop. Okay, so when we're trying to make changes, what we want to do is click repository. This may be different in Mac, but for Windows, we want to click repository and we want to open it in the code that we are using. You can also open it a different way, but this is how I prefer to open it. It's the easiest one for me. You can also, for example, click here, open in Visual Studio Codes, but just in case there may be something wrong here or you can't see it properly, you can open it through repository and open. So once you click open, it will show you the code that we just forked from GitHub, okay? I'm not going to go into deep about Visual Studios because I'm not doing the tutorial on that, but I just kind of want to show you what it looks like in your coding app. So I want to make a little change here, and I've already made a few changes, but I want to make another change. And I'm going to click, it says move all beer, and I'm going to say and wines. Just something simple so that we can change it. Now if you click back over, well first we got to remember to save it. If you click back over to the GitHub desktop, you will immediately see the change that you made. And wines, that's the same thing that I just added, moved all beer and wines, okay? So let's go back in the code and we're going to do something else. We're going to do the welcome MD and say template pack, this is a tester for my video. Okay? Again, don't forget to save. Control S, don't forget to save. Once we go right back into our GitHub desktop, we notice that there's a second change right there, and it's the same exact change that we just made. So as you can see, your terminal should automatically update with whatever you're coding in. So any code updates that you're doing here, as long as you're saving the file, any changes you make here should pop up in your GitHub desktop. Now, when we want to commit, because now we've made the changes, so let's say this code is now ready to commit it back to the website. We want to make sure that we add a title or a summary. So I'm just going to say tester, and then I'm going to add a description. This is where I made some changes to make, let's do to show in my GitHub tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to click commit to master. This is to commit my changes up to the website. But as you can see, this blue button has now popped up. It says push one commit to the origin remote. Now, let's go back into the main site because I just want to make sure you guys are seeing this all. So I'm opening up where my GitHub is, where I have forked the code, where it's showing up under my name, and I want to also make changes. So in here, as you can see, we haven't made any new commits. Nothing has changed. I did refresh the page just to make sure everything was okay first, but nothing has changed. We haven't added any commits. As you can see, this was an hour ago. Like I said, I recorded this a few times and I couldn't get it out, but as you can see, there is no new changes to this page. So we didn't fully push the code up yet. That is important because just committing to master is not going to actually commit it to the site. You also have to push origin. So when you push origin, this blue box should should go away, and once it goes away, that's how you know that it has committed. But always go back and check. So if we go right back to that same site and refresh it, this is the same GitHub page. As you can see, it added a commit, so instead of 2 commits, it says 3 commits. And we also see tester, which we just made. Okay? So, it shows you the changes that you've made, the previous change that was there, so we can see the original wording versus what we added to it. And we see both changes, so if we had, 6 changes, 10 changes, or even one change. We're going to see all of them, okay? These are called commits, so we're going to see each commit. Now, I want to go back to show you this, the branch, because we talked about this earlier. So this may be a little confusing for anyone, where it says this branch is 3 commits ahead of Henry Themes Master. Henry Themes Master is just who we originally got this repository from. This same repository that we're looking at earlier is the same master branch that it is referring to. So like I said, if this was somebody that we were working with, they would see that they're 3 commits ahead, that they're 3 commits behind, and they would go back into GitHub desktop, and then right where we saw that push, it'd be the same exact message, but instead of push, it would say pull, and they'd pull that down from their browser, and they'll see the changes here. And they could also click on history. They could see all the different changes that have been made to this code. So even though we just forked this code, we can see all the commits back to February 1st, 2015. So this is how you want to make sure that everything looks right when you're committing and when you're pulling and pushing information. If you're working with a partner, you can always go to history and just look at it. You can also check yourself by checking the amount of commits that you're ahead or behind. Okay, so that is pretty much how you use GitHub using the push and pull. I also wanted to quickly show you guys where you would download the GitHub desktop in case you did not have that before. So I'm just going to type in GitHub desktop. And as you can see, this first site, this desktop.github.com, I'm just simply going to click on it and I'm going to download for Windows because I have a Windows computer. And as you can see, you can also download for Mac if you have it. But you're going to click download, and from there, it's going to download the same desktop that we were just in. This is the same exact thing, just in white. As you can see, it's the same desktop. Okay? So that's pretty much how you use GitHub, and that's where you would download the GitHub desktop. It's pretty simple. Sometimes it can be a little bit complex, especially when you're working with a partner to time those push and pulls. But other than that, that is it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys learned a lot. Thank you so much.